Board of Selectmen meeting. We are reconvening an open session here. It is August 2nd. Time is, do you have the time? 6:08. We don't have, we're gonna skip over our minutes here. That brings us down to the public hearing. We do have a joint public hearing scheduled for today, so I'd like to welcome the planning board and Mr. Chair, if you'd like to open your...
Chair of the planning board, I'd like to open this meeting of a public hearing on 200 Laurel Street.
Do we need a roll call vote being a joint meeting for any?
I don't, yeah, since we're doing it on hybrid, we should do roll call votes, yes.
Okay. Do you guys want to have a roll call vote?
We'll do roll call.
Or roll call attendance?
Attendance.
Do we need attendance or just a vote?
Present here, Donovan.
Dave Forrest, Peter Blum, Conrad Decker.
And do we have anyone hybrid? Matt
Carlino here.
I don't see, it doesn't look like there's anyone else hybrid from the planning board. Roll call attendance for the select board.
Bob Jones.
Gordon Bailey.
And Sean Renier, I'm here. So now that we've got all that taken care of, I think we can begin the public hearing at this point. There's been sort of some, there's been something that's come to my attention rather not long ago, so I don't know at this point, do you have something you wanted to forward?
Yeah, I thought that it's kind of complicated as far as procedurally how we're going to go forward. But I think at this moment in time, we can do one of two things. This is for site plan approval, correct, tonight, to gather information and whatnot. But because generally, in most special permits, the planning board does that by themselves and then gives recommendations. Based on that and a few other legal considerations, I would make a motion that for the purpose of the special permit, our special permit's under 9.2, is that correct?
Yeah, that was my understanding, I believe, here.
Okay. Then,
Pull that up. Yeah, 9.2.
okay. That, for that purpose, given some questionability about boards and following through both boards or one board, I was going to make a motion that the Board of, and I will make a motion that the Board of Selectmen continue our 9.2 review for multiple family to a date certain, which would be not the next meeting, the 16th. You're gone then. What's the first Tuesday in August?
First
Or
Tuesday.
in
Don't
September.
actually have my calendar in front of me.
Do you have it?
It would be Tuesday, the 6th.
The 6th?
September 6th.
September 6th. I'd make a motion that we continue our portion of this special permit process to 7 o'clock in the courtroom on September, which day? 6th. On September 6th.
So the motion is to continue.
Just the planning board,
The
or
select
excuse me,
board.
the select board portion of review under 9.2 to the date certain and time certain that I just mentioned.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those, unless there's anything further, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I think,
So we can let you continue with the site plan and your work under 6.1 B. So, and then we'll go from there. So it'll be your meeting right now, and we'll be back at 7 o'clock.
Okay, see you.
You got it. Exactly. All right, thank you.
but Buck, I'll do my best to,
I mean, if you,
I've got this.
are you gonna stick around for the information, or are you gonna do a double presentation? 'Cause
No, well, site plan wise, it's just, we just closed ours, so we're not gonna
Well,
participate.
did we close our meeting? We can still listen and,
Okay.
because we're still, I mean, we made a motion to continue the public hearing, but I don't know that we necessarily need to.
We did post that
Yeah.
joint, so we can listen.
Can you close the, since it's a joint meeting, can you close the?
We could close our portion of it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could the applicant be heard? I think you want to say something.
At least present.
I'd
you
allow
guys can do it.
the applicant to speak at this time if you have something.
Great, thank you. Nick Arienti. Yeah, just briefly wanted to clarify, Nick Arienti, attorney for the applicant tonight. So I just wanted to clarify Gordon's comment. We are on for the planning board tonight for site plan review as well as special permit application under
Correct.
6.1. And it was scheduled for site plan, special permit under section 9.2 for the select board. So, you know, we will be requesting both of those items from the planning board as well as kind of the substantive underlying information required under section 6.1, which is obviously relevant for section 9.2. I just wanted to point that out and make sure that there was clarity among both of the boards here for what we're requesting. That's all at this point.
So my understanding, Attorney Arian, if I have it right, is that the application is not just for the site plan to the planning board, but also for 6.1 pre-existing non-conforming. So
Correct.
at some point, they could continue tonight, another night, whatever, to go forward with making their determinations under that section of the bylaw, independent of what we might or might not do under the section that's relevant to us.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're asking my opinion on the procedure, I think they're free to consider and grant or consider and deny site plan as well as the special permit application tonight.
Right,
I don't think
okay.
they need to wait necessarily. I think, you know, the intent of the combined meeting was to, you know, address all the substance in one hearing and potentially address the application, all three elements of the application in one meeting. Based on the conversations that Attorney Pollard and I, as well as some of the members had, you know, I don't feel that it's not appropriate for the select board to continue and to wait. Procedurally pursuant to the zoning bylaw as well as chapter 48, we're just trying to do the right thing and make sure that we have all bases covered because of the way this area of the bylaw kind of incorporates elements both that fall under the planning board and under the select board. So,
So you think that we should sit and listen and stay open, and that's what you would think at this moment?
I think
Is that what you're saying?
there may be some benefit to it so that we are not making the same presentation at the next hearing. But I would leave that entirely up to you, and you'd be able to evaluate maybe more efficiently if you do it in a subsequent hearing, continued hearing, once the planning board has reviewed and made their decision. I think it's really up to you.
If you don't think it's going to cause problems down the road, then I guess I would withdraw my motion then to and just sit and listen at this point, if that's what we need to do, so that they don't have, if for some reason down the road they need to present to us again, that's what we're trying to avoid. So we
Correct,
could,
but-
so for purposes of presenting the site plan review and whatnot, I suppose we should.
We have a motion to continue our
Yeah.
meeting, so I don't necessarily, we haven't closed our meeting, so I don't
Right.
necessarily think that we
So-
have to just withdraw
Okay.
our meeting entirely. I think we can sit here and
Okay.
see the presentation and then.
Okay.
Point out, Mayor Gordon, how, or you guys have a hard start at 7?
Yeah,
Well,
generally.
I think both are gonna be continued anyway, so
Okay.
that's.
Okay. Well, ours is going to be continued. to the-
We've now, I
Tuesday.
think where we're at, we've now made a determination to continue, but, you know, we're here as a joint meeting. Yeah, and so, with that being said, unless there's anything else from either board, I would hand it over to the applicant for the presentation.
Please.
Great, well, thanks again, and sorry for the complication procedurally that this is presenting, but it does happen to be one of those kind of unique, not entirely unique situations where there's an interplay between these two sections of the zoning bylaw, and we're just trying to get it right.
Could you just project a little for everybody in the
Sure.
audience, Nick?
Oh, sure.
The microphone is just for TV, so there's nothing extra. There's no extra speakers or anything.
All right, I can do that. All right, well, so I'm going to start over. I'm Nick Arienti on behalf of the applicant tonight, Ecos Properties. The three applications that are before Planning Board and the Select Board are at 200 Laurel Street, and they are for, number one, a special permit, again, of the Select Board under Section 9.2, multiple dwelling. Number two is site plan review to the Planning Board. And number three is a special permit application to the Planning Board pursuant to Section 6.1, and that is a conversion of an existing non-conforming use to another existing non-conforming use. Wanted to take just a minute right now to introduce our engineer on this project. Got Jim Scalise from SK Design here, who is going to do a more detailed presentation of the packet that was submitted prior for site plan review, as well as the special permits. Those are submitted as well as modified recently in order to address some comments. But briefly, the zoning district here, everyone's familiar, it's Route 20 as we head north to Lenox. It's the R20 Zoning District, which is residential 20,000 square foot, which is a little under a half acre for new positive development. And a quick note about the property itself. Again, everyone's driven by it a million times here, but it's a existing or pre-existing non-conforming motel use. And from the town's records, what we can determine is that it was built and used first as a motel in 1944 with 24 units. The zoning bylaw in Lee was not enacted first until 1963. That renders this use, both from a use perspective and from a dimensional perspective, as existing non-conforming. Okay, it means that we meet one of the exemption criteria under the zoning bylaw that allows this property a great deal of flexibility and to not be strictly bound to adhere to the performance requirements, as we might say, of other properties if they were built now, or frankly any time after the zoning bylaw was enacted. Okay, so that provides kind of a unique opportunity for this property, as well as many others in town, but that's the reason we're allowed to apply under 6.1 for a conversion of a non-conforming use. Okay, just quickly, the current proposal is to adaptively reuse this property from a motel use to apartments, going from 23 motel rooms, that's what recent history has had, to 16 apartment units. The owner in this case, or the developer and the new owner, recent owner of the property, his name is Sam Nickerson, and his business Ecos Properties acquired this property last year. And what he saw at that point in time was an opportunity, frankly, to address a real need, both in Lee, in southern Berkshire County, frankly, all of Berkshire County, and that is what we might call market rate housing, workforce housing, which is in great demand these days because there's virtually none of it. So, we're talking about permanent residences, not short-term, we're talking long-term residences, not short-term rentals, nothing of that nature. But because there was such a need in Lee, this opportunity checked a lot of boxes. Certainly the property itself doesn't need a substantive conversion as far as the site goes. There will be a build-out, which we'll talk about just on the interior in order to fit up these units and make them appropriate for long-term, again, market rate apartment housing. And that's kind of something that was unique. It's not often that we find properties from a commercial perspective that you can kind of turnkey and be able to use a comparable use that has such a good affect addressing the needs of, a local community so well. I think everybody's aware that the housing market's been completely crazy the last couple of years in particular, and the inability of available rental, again, market rate housing has been dramatic. So this addresses a lot of those needs. And when I think that's kind of a broad way of saying we're talking about, our restaurant employees, retail employees, small business, contractor employees, but frankly, it's everybody who is not potentially able to find the opportunity to buy something at this point. So it really meets that need in a pretty efficient way. And again, with regard to improvements to the property, it's going to be a renovation that will provide dramatic increased energy efficiency, great improvements on aesthetics, and again, provide some suitable longer-term housing and housing stability for that lower rate to provide a local opportunity for people to live here in Lee, even though they're not able to purchase at this time. Just with regard to the neighborhood, again, I think we're pretty aware of it, but straight across the street from 200 Laurel Street is the State Police Barracks. Just down a bit is the Masonic Temple. A little bit further down south on the road is the Lexington Manor apartments, which are, I don't know exactly how many, maybe they're 15 or 20 apartments in that complex that's been there for quite some time successfully. If we go the other way, there's that retail sales, the pop shop and ice cream. There's Mint Restaurant, then there's the Motel. Further up is the Cork and Hearth, or former Cork and Hearth. Across the street is the nursing facility, an assisted living facility. So as you stretch the corridor, including the neighborhood, there is a long history of a fair amount of kind of mixed use along Route 20, which, as we all know, is heavily trafficked and is the primary north-south corridor out of and into Lee. Now, I wanted to talk about what the proposal is as far as, long-term housing. I think we've had, when I say we, I'm a resident of Lee, so sometimes I use that here tonight, which sounds, I'm making an assumption otherwise, but what I think has happened with some properties of this nature recently is that they have turned over and a use has gone from being maybe a relatively safe and predictable motel use into more of a transient housing use that has caused significant problems. I did have the opportunity to speak to the chief of police to find out what some of those issues were and make sure that that there's clarity that what's being proposed here tonight is not a potential problem situation and not a potential problem as far as, crime, danger, and infringement on kind of abutters living in their residential neighborhoods. The intent is to eliminate that and make it as good a fit from a residential perspective as the rest of the neighborhood is now, and we hope better. As I said, the tenant base that we're looking to address is workforce housing. Okay, it's really that middle market, affordable, but workforce housing. So the improvements to the property will reflect that. There is going to be a significant amount of money that's invested in the property, most of which will be on the interior, but Jim will talk about the site itself in just a minute. But to fit up these units, to make them address a certain level in the market that were intended, okay, to try to meet, in order to meet the goal of workforce housing. You might think of this in some ways as similar to the project over on Prospect Street, the Prospect Village Apartments. This is probably the most similar proposal since that project was approved by the planning board. I think it was 2016. And that was converting that old use, which I think was a assisted living nursing facility, into units there. And they had 20 units actually in that conversion. That was, in fact, on Prospect Street, a more dense, more traditional neighborhood, you might say, than what we're looking at here on 200 Laurel Street. But my understanding is that, you know, the end result has been a pretty good result. I understand there haven't been problems in that area, and that certainly is the goal and the intent with regard to this application and the use and readaptive reuse of this property, okay, for apartment housing. So that's a good model generally to use, and I think that's the intent of the applicant. I don't know, can someone tell me if my client, Sam, is on the Zoom?
I see Samuel's iPhone.
Okay. If Sam's available,
I
he
asked
would,
them to unmute.
he would like to say a few words.
Unmute. Samuel, if you're there listening, please unmute yourself. There you are. Try again. Let's try that again. There you are.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. I'm doing great. Good job cleaning that up.
I can hear you. You might have to speak up if you're able to.
Is that any better?
There we go.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so Nick teed that up very, very well. I'll just say a few things kind of about myself. My family's had a long history in Massachusetts, a long history in the Berkshires. My great-grandfather was rector at St. Stephen's in Pittsfield, and my grandfather grew up right at Pittsfield. So we've been around for a while. A lot of my family members do real estate development, so we kind of figured out a few things over time. And Eco's properties, what I started doing in 2011 after a career in finance, was really focused on doing smaller scale incremental development. And we have an environmental mission, and all the projects that we've done, they've all been adapted for use. And so this opportunity here is a great one for Lee to create some more workforce housing without building a new building. I always say that the greenest building and the most environmentally friendly is the one that's already there. So the conversion could be a good one. And the other thing that I wanted to kind of focus on is just the current condition of the motel, because these properties kind of go through a life cycle. This one is really nearing the end, and Nick was alluding before to kind of the later stages where motel operators get in trouble, and then they just decide, okay, now it's an apartment building, I'm going to start taking Section 8 tenants, and it just circles the drain from there. So when I came to the property back in December, that's kind of where it was headed. It's generally in pretty bad repair. We've got tarps on the roof right now. They've had a number of kind of weekly tenants who sort of haven't been, professionally screened. There are cars up on blocks, beer cans and cigarette butts everywhere. It just was not looking great. So what we're proposing to do is going to be a significant upgrade to the property and to the neighborhood. And I think something to keep in mind about this is just the track record that I've developed in creating quality housing in other situations. And we do a very careful job with design of the properties, with very proactive maintenance, and then also with the tenant screening. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've never had to evict a tenant that we put through the screening process. So, we've figured out how to do that. There's often opposition to change in these neighborhoods, but usually after they're done, everyone's been happy with the results that I've been able to create in the other projects that I've done. So I won't take up any more time, but if you have more questions about me or philosophy, please let me know and I can elaborate.
Thank you.
Great, okay, so I think in just a moment here, we're gonna transition to Jim Scalise to talk about the site and the particulars on the special permit. I did just wanna add that we became aware of some comments that some of the neighbors in the neighborhood had, and I can tell you that both myself and Jim, and certainly Sam as the principal with the owner here, or as the principal owner, is intent on addressing concerns and takes the comments very seriously. And so, our intent is to address those concerns as well as we can to provide the assurances that this is a project that is in fact one that fits well with the neighborhood and that is a good reuse of the property. So I just wanted to recognize those comments and let folks know in the neighborhood that we are listening and intend to address those. And as one example of that already, we learned that the planning board did have a preliminary review of the project a week ago. We were then aware of some comments. Without skipping a beat, the applicant addressed those comments. We provided some updated documentation to hopefully address those comments as quickly as possible. And I think as a reflection of the intent of this applicant to do what's right by this site, by this neighborhood, and by the town. So with that, I just wanted to turn it over to Jim Scalise to address the technical elements.
Good evening. For your record, Jim Scalise. I'm an engineer with SK Design Group. I have some small versions of the plan because I know it's hard to see. So if you could allow me to approach.
Thank you.
I think this will make it easier. There's only 3 drawings. I think it printed both sides, which is might be a little cumbersome, but I think we'll get through it. This happens to be right behind you, so
Oh, there you go.
I have one left. Does anyone need one over here?
That way they can look there instead of behind them.
So I think Nick gave a pretty good overview, and I know we're on the clock here, so I won't, I'll try not to be repetitive. The property was built in 1944, which kind of establishes our nonconformity. Nick did some research for us on how the zoning in town has matured over time, and we kind of fit before zoning, which puts us in a non-conforming bucket, which allows us to apply for an application under section 6.1. So we're here really tonight, I think, based on some of the preliminary conversations that we've had here already, to focus on a site plan review in section 6.1, which is site plan review is really the civil engineering nuts and bolts of this project, which relate to parking, landscaping, lighting, stormwater, architecture. So I'll kind of run through those topics for you. The number 1 drawing, 1 of 3, if you look in the lower right-hand corner of those handouts, that's the existing condition out there. So we did a topographic survey. We go out there and we locate all the corners of the building. We measure everything, and we are able to generate a site plan. We tried to put some color on it. The brown is the building. The darker color is the existing kind of circular driveway. And the green color is open space, and the darker green is forested areas. And this is Laurel Street. North is up the page, and Laurel Street is running north and south. So we have a 3-acre property. We have an existing, what I'll call 24-unit. There's 23 hotel units in 1 manager's apartment for a total of 24 units of that existing building. The goal here is to reconfigure that space, or a level 3 alteration under the building code, which would constitute reconfiguring that space into 16 apartment units. I think it's relevant to point out that the density of the project goes down quite a bit. The number of bedrooms goes down about 33%. You have a existing bedroom count of 26 bedrooms, and you have a proposed bedroom count of 17. And the reason is that you have primarily 4 studios, 11 one-bedroom, and 1 two-bedroom apartments. So you have kind of a low-density development. It's our expectation that we'll have young working people, maybe older folks, but not necessarily families because of the low bedroom count. if you're looking for kind of a demographic. We talked about parking. The initial engineering review of parking was to just follow the zoning bylaw. The bylaw requires 1 parking space per dwelling unit, or so 16 parking spaces would be required. There are 17 that lay out quite nicely on the site. We created a one-way loop here in a clockwise fashion from the northern driveway in, and if we angle the parking a little bit, it creates space and allows it to lay out quite neatly. We understood there were some comments from the planning board on this topic, and coincidentally, I have done work just recently in Northampton, and I was scolded for designing more parking than their bylaw required in that case. And I'll be honest with you that the standard that we follow is out of San Francisco, and it's a terrific standard, and actually requires a little more parking than your bylaw does. So I'm in agreement that there should be a little more parking. So we've upped that parking number from 18 spaces to 26 by putting some parallel spaces along the driveway. So it doesn't really change the developed footprint. It doesn't increase it. They're interior. So we have some interior parallel spaces with some gravel shoulder along the driveway on the north and south entrance and exit. That creates that increased 8 parking spaces, which then satisfies the criteria of 1.6 spaces per dwelling unit, which is really the national standard that I like to follow, called the Urban Land Institute. So that's parking. As far as stormwater, which is always a topic, there's very little increase, if at all. We have gravel parking we just added, but other than that, there's absolutely no increase in impervious area. And Sam and I, during a site visit, identified a network of stormwater pipes, dry wells, in the rear of the property coming off the hillside. In our plan, we met with the Conservation Commission. It's not jurisdictional, so we can modify it, and we've got in our plans to improve and correct and maintain that drainage system that's been neglected. So that answers the stormwater question. Other topics are, we have landscaping proposed around the front of the building. We think that's an improvement. It breaks up the parking field. One topic that we thought would be the single topic that might have some potential for impact on the neighbors would be lighting. So there's bollards right now that run around, circle the driveway. They're fairly low. They kind of spray light in a sideways direction. So our proposal is to put in, remove all that existing bollards and replace it with 6 16-foot lights, but they're cut-off style. They used to be called shoe boxes, but they're much nicer than that now. So I'm dating myself. But the one thing I did notice today, I went through the specifications on lighting. We have these shapes that are drawn around the lights. That represents the limit of a half a foot candle. So it's a very dim light at that limit. So we're just hitting the driveways in and out just to make them safe in the parking areas. Any other lighting will be just normal downcast lighting on the building itself. And our recommendation, in the scope here, it actually calls out for a 4,000 K light bulb, which is a 70 watt LED bulb. And there's really 3 general choices with LED. There's 3, 4, 5,000. 5,000 is like the blue white, and we don't want that. The 4,000 is like a whiter light, but in the middle, and that's normally what we use for parking lots. In this case, because of the residential neighborhood, I would suggest that if you did decide to approve this project, that you make a condition that they be 3,000 K, because that'll make it a little bit a softer light. And I think in the neighborhood here, after thinking about it and reading the comments today, I would suggest that would be an improvement to our proposal. Beyond that, this project as a nonconformity has a couple of issues. The number of units under the current bylaw exceeds density per area, so that would be something that you would have to consider. We have a dimensional requirement. Our side yard minimum is 25 feet for multifamily, and we have about 21 and a half feet. So we would need, it's a continuation of that nonconformity, but it does exist now. But again, I think we need your permission to continue that. So we have the density of 5 units will be reduced from 8 units per acre to 5 units per acre, but it's still non-conforming. So I have density, I have setback as my criteria. Another criteria, depending on how we go with section 9.2, would be that if you allow that number of dwelling units, I think that would allow the select board, but I'll let the lawyers hash that out. Other items are, we'll skip over 9.2. You really have some findings to make, and if I just go through those very quickly, the project follows the provision requirements of the zoning bylaw. I mean, this use, multifamily, is allowed in this zone. It does require a special permit, so, and the motel use is not allowed. So we believe it's certainly less detrimental in that we have at least an allowable use as compared to one that's not allowed. The reduction in bedrooms, bedrooms is how engineers calculate sewer and water flow based on Title V. Title V is the state sanitary code, so it's 110 gallons per bedroom per day. And if you just simply, the fourth grade math, if you reduce the number of bedrooms, you are going to obviously reduce the amount of sewer and water usage. We did talk to DPW, and they informally talked to the DPW committee and found there's really no issues in this area. There's no existing sewer or water issues. This building will have to be sprinklered, so we expect a new water connection, and we'll coordinate with that board as appropriate should we receive our special permit. Essential and desirable, I think we have a degraded property, and redevelopment of degraded properties is actually a smart growth principle, both at US EPA level and at the state level. So redevelopment is encouraged in all zoning across the state, and renovating this project, improving the exterior cladding to a sustainable material, and then reconfiguring the space and providing life safety like sprinkler system in that building are all improvements, I think, that make it essential or desirable as it relates to the use today. As part of that building permit process, this would be an R2 use, which is a non-transient. It's a more permanent use, and that's our approach. And that's usually the cutoff there, I believe, is around 30 days of occupancy. So we won't have this turnover. If for some reason there was concern by folks about there being turnover here, that would be an easy condition for us to accept, because it's fully our proposal is to have a non-transient use here. So we don't believe it will be detrimental to adjacent uses. And as far as the established character, this is a fairly large lot in this area. It's across from the police barracks, as Nick has pointed out. But we believe this is part of the neighborhood now, and that continued use and similar aesthetic of this property long-term with a lower intensity of use fits that requirement. Another thing we looked at was traffic, and there's actually the two things we look at as engineers. Well, we look at trips per day, but the two keys are usually AM peak hour and evening peak hour. The number of trips during that morning rush kind of thing, or evening rush when folks are going to work or coming home from work. And there's about 47% less traffic. And this isn't a big generator. It only generates, as a motel, 15 trips in an hour. So you're talking a car every 4 minutes or something, and then under the apartment use, it would be 8, so it might be a car every 8 minutes or something. So is it less? Yeah, it's about 7 trips less in the morning and about 4 trips less in the evening is the way the math works out. So this is not detrimental as it relates to trip generation or traffic, because it generates about 113 less trips per day than the current use at full occupancy. Understanding this use is maybe a little underutilized right now, but if you looked at it at full occupancy, this would be much less. Erosion control, we've talked, the site's mostly developed now. We don't anticipate any significant earthwork. We don't qualify for needing a stormwater pollution prevention plan for less than 1 acre. Solid waste, we show a trash receptacle on the north side of the driveway, and snow removal. We have plenty of room around the driveway, as I'm sure currently exists, for snow storage. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Do we have anything else that the applicants would like to say at this point?
No, I think we're good for now.
I'd just say I think we've already made a motion to continue. I think we're just hinting that we're looking for the planning board to make any findings that they're gonna make before we weigh in, and I would, unless either Bob or Gordon, you would like to say anything further? I'd open it up to the planning board. Buck, do you have something?
John, I'd like to go around our board, and if they have any questions about, right now, let's deal with the site plan only. Let's concentrate on that for aim our questions towards that. I'll try to at least get that through that part tonight. Conrad, anything? Oh, you know, might as well start with you.
Just a couple of things. Planning board, we put together a list of items. You guys did address it, see in the letter here. So the majority of the stuff was pretty much addressed. The issues about the additional parking, we felt was definitely needed. You're addressing that. I'm just curious, on your plan, I know you put the parking parallel.
Sorry to interrupt, but we cannot hear Conrad.
You'll have to get closer to a microphone, Conrad.
Bring the other one over.
Nope, not that one, Buck. The other one next to it. Yeah.
Nothing of what Conrad said came through, so, sorry Conrad, I think you gotta start over.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Buck, move that speaker
Still
over.
can't hear you.
This one? Yes. Try that one?
Hold it.
How about now?
Little broken up. That's better.
Uh-oh.
You okay now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's green, so that's good, yeah.
Just quickly.
Why is it
You're
frozen?
showing 4 parallel parking spots here and over here to get the increase of 8 cars.
Yes, sir.
It's a gravel service, not a paved service.
Correct.
I understand why,
Okay.
but we just wondering if you're gonna add, say, 3 or 4 additional spots on this side over here, or even 3 and 4 on this side to make up that difference. Basically, in the north-south direction, it's fairly flat according to your topo. You got about enough.
Yeah, if you look at the is it okay if we interact?
No, sure.
Yeah, if you look at the architectural plan, on the north side, there's a walkout there. There's actually some lower space. So filling that in would have required quite a bit of work with a retaining wall. It seemed a little intrusive. And then we do have a fair amount of grade also. When the slope is over, say, 4 or 5%, it's where, you know, if we'd have to really flatten that out and create. So there was just a lot more work to do that than to, because I actually sketched it both ways and reviewed it with Sam and the team, and it was just a level of effort and the intrusiveness of that. And the other worry is car headlights right now are kind of contained in the U shape of the building.
Sure.
And if I put them past the building, I'm going to be shining at the neighbors, and I figure I'm going to not be very popular in town should I
Yeah,
propose
it
that.
was just a question.
Yep.
We see the reason why you did it that way.
Yep.
We just wondered if you did explore the.
We did, yeah, I actually drew it out, I actually sketched it out.
Right. With regard to some of the questions we raised before, we got the height of the light fixture, that's fine. This is a full cutoff fixture?
Full cutoff, absolutely. To rack down, and we can shield it and we can dim it if we have to after the fact.
Okay.
So should we miss, you know, for something like this, light's driving me crazy, a neighbor, we can dim that light, and they actually have a shielding package, we can shield it.
Yeah, because sometimes they have a dish on the bottom.
Yeah, we can do that. That's an accessory you can add.
It seems like on the south side, that would be
Right,
important.
I think that center light on the south, we can do that.
So the lower light fixture, 3000K, that's equivalent of a 70 watt LED.
It's a 70 watt LED, but the 3000 is like a warmer light bulb.
Okay. I think we probably want to make sure
That's
that's.
the Kelvin, is the color, is the heat of it.
Okay.
So that 3000 is right around like what an old incandescent was.
Okay.
It's more of the yellow,
Yeah.
amber look than that stark white when you go in.
I think in this setting, that might be better.
Ending it and restart.
It's subjective, so I'll do it.
Okay, are there going to be actual wall pack light fixtures on the building, around the
I'm
perimeter?
told sconces on the building.
Sconces on the building only?
Yeah.
All right. On the west elevation, on this side over here, there's a door on the bottom. What is that for?
That would be a Sam question, I don't know. I think that goes into a basement space. It's not shown on my floor plans, so I don't know is the answer there, sorry.
I know some of the abutters are going to bring up some questions here, at least from the letters I saw. Strictly from a site plan approval standpoint, not a special permit standpoint. Now, looking at the ITE trip generation and the LUC codes, the interpretation does seem sound for a typical motel unit. And I think some of the neighbors did make mention of, there's always been a lower occupancy motel such that the typical ITE
Doesn't apply.
doesn't really apply. On the other hand, when you look at the IT for a 16-unit apartment building, it's really rather benign.
It is.
So it's not really a major trip generator at all. Also looking at the more recent building conversions, the adaptive reuse on the Prospect Street, 20 unit with 29 parking spaces on that. That seemed to be a good comparative. It's also a very minor traffic impact on that street. And that's a fully residential street.
I think you find based on the number of bedrooms in the units that the demographic of folks here don't have, 3 teenagers living in these, right, that are generating the trips. You just don't have the trip generation with, the occupancy being 1 or 2 people in these units.
Okay, with regard to the traffic movements in and out of the property, any interaction with the Deborah Ave intersection. I know there's been some comments about that in some of the letters. I know traffic engineers, they usually look at they assess the traffic sight lines, they look at the speed of the traffic, they look at the visibility. It seems like what you've done here now is, this right now is two-way traffic on both driveways.
That's right.
You're making this one-way in, making this one-way out in a clockwise rotation on this. So this new driveway is, it appears to be, if I look at GIS, it's about 420 feet from
Right. Which meets the posted speed limit. And understanding people's speed there, I'm not here to argue that. But, what we deal with is the posted speed limit. And that's a relatively flat section of road.
Right, and it seems like you have 400 feet of sightline that's greater than 400 feet going northbound and southbound, so that seems to be reasonable. The whole idea of, instead of making this two-way traffic on both driveways, full access, you made it limited.
Well, it actually creates conflict internally. So if I had 2 residents exiting at the same time, I have an internal conflict that I created. It didn't make any sense.
But the fact that you put this driveway as the egress, it lengthens the
Site distance.
site distance.
Yes, sir.
For the Deborah Ave. Just an observation there. So I guess the question is, are these sightline distances adequate for the new entrance and exit configuration?
Yes.
Also, with an AM peak and PM peak, our trip generation, it's roughly 1 car per every 6 minutes during the AM peak and the PM peak.
Generally, yeah. It's a little less in the AM for some reason is the formula, but...
Right, so are these driveway separations and sightline distances consistent or appropriate for?
Yeah, there's 2 different codes for that. ITE does trip generation and ASHTO does site distance, but we meet the site distance requirements.
Okay, and the last thing is, one of the letters suggested that there are many car accidents over the years involving people coming in and going out of the motel. Has the applicant looked at any of the research from Mass DOT?
I did not look at crash data. I find that the crash data is, unless it's a fatality or a very significant crash, they don't even keep records. So that's something that you want me to try to find, but I...
Well, it sounded like it was kind of rhetorical, that historically people have seen it.
Sure.
Just wasn't sure if there was a history there. Because if there was, I mean...
Speed is the issue there, I'll tell you. I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, the speed was different. Right here, right out here is where this is 35 miles an hour going south to the bridge, and we started at 40 miles an hour going towards the lake at that point. So you're right at the area where
Transitions.
it transitions.
Yeah.
From site plan elements, I think we pretty much covered all the other stuff that we had discussed.
Yes, we have.
Thank you.
As far as the site plan, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Did I ask a question?
Oh, you got any more questions? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Not more.
Well, more than his?
More than his.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Scalise and possibly one for Mr. Nickerson, depending on what the chair's view of the scope of your questioning right now is. Mr. Scalise, you mentioned landscaping will be installed on the site. Can you summarize that for us, please?
Yeah, we expect there to be, it's near the building, so we expect it to be more, we have a couple of shade trees shown. What we've created is we tried to reorganize the existing park. Right now it's just all paved right up to the building. So we created some islands along the face of the building with some plantings. At the entrance, this area actually has entrances to a few apartments. We expect that to be shrubs. And then in the corners, we think, in this couple of spots, we can put some smaller shade trees. But we don't expect any significant, maybe dwarf kind of shade trees is all they're looking for.
Nothing out front between the...
We didn't plan on changing the aesthetic of the overall property. We're keeping the pool, so there wasn't any proposal by us, unless there's a mandate to really change the aesthetic.
No, not for me. I want to ask you about the traffic again. You went through that pretty quickly.
Okay.
And I think I wrote down that you imagine 113 less trips per day in that driveway.
Yeah.
Can you give me an idea of how many trips there expect there will be?
So if-
How many per person, per
Did you ask
unit
you for the join
that would
code
be per
yet?
day?
Sure. Understand, the way we look at this is if we renovated this as a hotel with the current number of rooms, that would be generally by right. We just need a building permit. So if I renovated this and upgraded it so that it was occupied more regularly and busier, if we did that, then you'd have about 219 trips a day for 24 units. So I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can do the math for you if you like. So if I have 219 divided by 24 units, I have 9 trips per day.
So that would be 9 trips per day as a motel.
That's right.
But I'm asking about,
So the apartment drops to 106 trips, but a part of that is we drop the number of units, right? So we have 106 trips divided by 16 units, so that's 6.6 trips per day.
does that seem reasonably consistent with your experience that
Absolutely.
people who rent
Yep.
that kind of unit would be in and out
It's
6
been-
trips a day?
Yeah, because it's an occupancy thing. If this were all 3-bedroom apartments, I might have some concern, because I think you have the number of
Recording in progress.
persons.
Sorry.
The number of persons living in the unit, the potential would be for more persons to drive more. But when you have studio apartments and you have 15 of these units, I believe, are studio or 1-bedroom, your occupancy is going to be 1.5 people or something, or some.
No, I'm asking
Yeah.
because 6 seems like a lot to me. I'm a retired guy and I don't go anywhere.
Well, a single-family home, rule of thumb is always 10 trips. So if you kind of put it in that perspective, and a single-family home can range from, I have 5 children, they're all teenagers, I'm probably 18 trips a day, and my neighbor is probably 6. Okay, so if you average it out, 10's a reasonable number.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I do have some questions to Mr. Nickerson that relate to the special permit. Should I wait for those?
I think we should. I think we're at 7 o'clock now.
I gotta go with the questions also.
Yeah, I think, can you wait? And these guys want to get started with
Well-
this. We're not gonna get.
Well, Buck.
Stay.
Yes.
The swales that drain around the backside of the motel?
Yeah.
From the existing motel and come to the sides, are they mowable with grass?
Right now, they're not. They haven't been maintained, so they're all overgrown, and then the dry wells are collapsing. So our plan is to jet out all the pipes and clean them, and then take a look at the dry well, save what we can or replace it, and then make it, then remove the vegetation.
Well, dry wells, in my experience, usually don't work out so well.
Yeah, we got it. I want to get in there and look at it. There's a stone drain that runs along the whole perimeter in the rear to take water off the slope and dewater the backyard. It must be wet. It was actually wet when I was out there this spring.
But are you gonna pave these swales?
No. I'm gonna put
Make them mowable?
no. Yeah, I'm just gonna make a grass swale out there. I'm just gonna reshape them and fix them.
Part of it is when they go to the road, as they drain towards the road?
They drain. The outlet is 150 feet from the road, and it level spreads over the lawn. It's never.
So you're planning on absorption, then not going into
Yeah.
catch basins?
That's right. Eventually, it gets there, but by the time it gets there, it's slowed way down for sure.
With the water line, I see you're going to be planning on replacing the water line?
I think the sprinkler system's going to mandate a larger. I'm quite certain it's going to mandate a bigger.
So that's probably the biggest amount of construction you're going to do.
You'll have a trench up along the driveway.
And
Yep.
the sewer's going to stay as is?
Yeah, well, there's a manhole on site. If I have to do any work, it'll be from the manhole that's currently private already, and we'll tie. We may have to upgrade. We might want to camera inspect that line on our property. Just it's built in 1944. It might need to be replaced, but that's again, I don't have to go out on the road for that.
Okay, and lastly, the water line, is it on a master meter? Everything's on 1 meter for the site?
That I would say we'd have to coordinate that with the town. The way I've done that is if the town likes a master meter, we do that, and then we put our private meters on individual units and deal with the tenants that way, or you just include it in the rent. It's up to the,
The town only provides 3/4 to a 1-inch meter. Anything.
yeah, so I'll work with the water department. I mean, I've done it in 100 towns, well, however they want to do it's fine.
Okay. I'll be seeing you again.
Okay.
I'm on board of public works.
Okay, so we'll see you there. Yeah, we'll figure that out. Whatever you guys want, we'll do. Yeah.
Okay, Matt, you're there. You have anything?
I do, thank you, Mr. Chair. A few questions for Jim. Jim, when you say workforce, or when Nick mentioned workforce of rents and market rates, are we talking the same thing, or are those two different categories?
They're the same thing in this case. Their market rate, meaning it's not subsidized. So this project will be built with private money. There's no restrictions on any level of affordability. Based on the unit sizes, we expect it to be in the workforce area as it relates to the cost. I don't know what that is exactly because we don't have all of our budgets worked out and construction costs are all over the place. But our sense is that they'll be modestly priced as the market allows.
Do we have any, I don't see Sam on here anymore, do we think they're gonna be somewhere in like the $1,200 a month range?
I think that.
Do you have any idea?
Yeah, it sounds like you're close, but I can't commit to that. I just don't know what the construction costs are gonna be ultimately, and that'll dictate the rents.
Nope.
But,
Okay, that was my next question. What are we looking for a total project cost approximately? I know it's not exactly.
The building, geez, I don't remember the square footage. It's got to be 12,000 square feet, and it's got to be $250 or $300 a square foot today, on the low side. So if
I think it was about 88, almost 9,000 square feet, because it was under the 10,000, I think. But
okay. So, but you're looking at $250 to $300 a square foot to renovate that space. So if you do the math, 10,000 in my mind is still the number. I would use 10,000 times 300.
Okay.
But that's an engineer's
On the
estimate.
dumpster location, I got cut off earlier. I think you guys lost internet, so I might be redundant here. But the dumpster location, is that going to be enclosed?
Yes, we show it as screened, and that was one of the adjustments we made as part of our resubmission here recently. So we'll put a fence all the way around it with some plantings.
The board is laughing at me because they knew I was going to ask that. Is it possible to have the door to the dumpster? I know this might be hard for emptying, but is it possible we've had a recent experience where doors are left open and you're looking at the dumpsters. Is it possible to put the doors on the east side? I know that might be difficult, or maybe it's not facing the road.
Let me look at the topography. I'll have to redesign that, but I'm happy to do that. If it's not going to happen. I don't think I can get it on the east side, but right now I have it on. Yep. Right now, you're saying you want to.
That would be great.
Okay, I can look at that.
And then Eco's Properties. Can you just go into some of the other projects that they've done locally?
I don't have a list of those. I've worked with Sam on other projects, but not the bigger one I worked on wasn't redevelopment, so it wouldn't fit this description. So I'll leave it to.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, Matt. It's Nick. So I can name two for you that are, relatively close by. The probably one that is the best fit in this case would be 47 Railroad Street, right in downtown Great Barrington. That was a property right at the top of Railroad Street in Great Barrington that had seen a number of uses over, the prior 30 years or so, from an auto parts store to a restaurant to, actually a couple of restaurants in that space. And it had underutilized, more or less unused space upstairs that was a combination of offices and maybe one or two residences. And when Sam had acquired the property a while back, there was a substantial multi-million dollar investment that was put into the property in order to, again, fit up that existing, very beautiful old building in this case, and provide some commercial and retail business uses on the first floor, and have the entire second floor converted into apartment units. And that's been very successful. Had to source some parking spaces in that case just up the road. But that's 47 Railroad Street in Great Barrington. And he continues to manage that property and own it, and it's been quite a successful development and quite a redevelopment of that property, and continues to be a real beautiful spot on Railroad Street. The other one is right Main Street in Lenox. Gosh, I'm not going to be able to remember the address offhand, but it's directly across the street from Loeb's. So it's on the corner. The Chamber of Commerce used to have an office in that building. It's kind of just down from the Heritage, down Housatonic Street at the corner. So he bought that property a number of years ago. That's a similar setup. In this case, there was some commercial downstairs, and there was residential upstairs. And again, that one's been, he's done substantial improvements and renovation of that existing building, new roof and other infrastructure, and really made it a high-performing, energy-efficient, again, reuse, and has really made the property perform well and really serve, in both cases, serve those neighborhoods extremely well. And he'll continue to maintain and manage those properties himself. So those are the two real local examples. Sam himself, he might not have mentioned, he lives in Great Barrington, has been there for a while. And he's a hands-on guy. And so that is what you'll get. And he went into reviewing rents and reviewing lease applications, and really using some discretion in order to ensure that he has reliable and responsible tenants. So those are the examples I can give you right now.
Yeah, no, that's great. Sorry, the internet connection must not be the greatest. So for the people on Zoom, it didn't get everything, but I wanted to at least for the public to hear some of the other properties that Sam and Eco's properties have done. That's it for me for now. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt. You guys have pretty much any questions I had have been answered. As far as the site plan right now, we will need two motions. One will be to waive strict site plan requirements.
Mr. Chair, would it be appropriate to just entertain any public comment for the site plan at this point, or this being a public hearing?
This site plan really is not a public hearing.
Okay.
But, no.
Oh, that's a site plan review, I see.
Yeah. If we're going to do that, we're going to be another 20 minutes into it, so I think we should admit this experiment did not work, having a joint meeting, and we're going to continue ours, I think, to August 8th. Beth? Can you guys continue this? Next Monday will be the first planning board, the site plan, and the 6-1 special permit.
Next Monday?
Can we do that?
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Need a motion on that? Or no? To continue it?
Yes. Is there a motion to continue this to August 8th at 6:30, say?
I'll make that motion.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Conrad seconds. Roll call vote. Matt?
Aye.
Peter?
No. No.
Dave?
Aye.
Conrad?
Aye.
Buck Donovan, aye. We're going to continue. And this meeting,
It's continued.
permit hearing is continued And you
Was that for the site plan? Was that for the site plan or the hearing?
Site plan and hearing.
You did both? Okay, I couldn't quite hear, okay.
Yep.
For anybody who wants to, I would open it up in our meeting if you guys want, if anybody wants to say anything in our public comment, I would allow it, but that would be for our meeting. If they wanted to say anything, you guys can stay or go. Just, I don't want everybody to.
We just closed the public.
You did.
On this topic
You did, but I have a public comment portion of my meeting that I would allow anyone to comment. I mean, they came all the way down here, but I would please wait.
I know I'm not gonna,
Monica.
I'm just gonna
No.
say I can't be here next Monday because I work on Monday nights.
I'm-
I am in a butter, and I would have liked to have participated in this meeting, in this public hearing. That's now I can't participate in because it's gonna be on Monday night, and I have to either get a night off of work. So I'm just protesting. I have a list
I
of things I want to
apologize.
ask about.
I apologize, Monica,
So just
but
letting you know,
the
I'm in a
planning
butter,
board-
so I have my rights.
Yes.
Thanks.
The planning board has, are you guys concluded at this point?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Need a second? I'll second. All in favor, Conrad? Aye. Dave? Aye. Peter? Matt?
Aye.
Bob Donovan, aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
They get all the time and we get all that.
So that concludes the joint hearing with the planning board from the select board's perspective. So I'll let the room clear.
Yeah, well.
And at this point, excuse me. At this point, the select board is going to continue our meeting. We do have a public comment section that is next on the agenda, so I would invite anyone who likes to say anything to please stand and be heard. Just for everybody's understanding, this isn't anything to do with the public hearing, but feel free to be heard at this point.
Open our meeting at 7:15, our regular
We
meeting.
have to reopen?
I think you should because we were in a hearing.
I see, yeah.
So now just
opening.
open our regular meeting at
Okay.
7:15.
Yeah, so, thank you all for coming here, and I'll open our meeting. The time is 7:15. This is the select board meeting, not the joint hearing. It's August 2nd. I already spoke the time. We are down to public comment, and if anybody, like I have said before, please be heard. Kathy, I see your hand. Nobody else is jumping up, so go ahead.
I don't want to address anything from the public hearing.
You can say whatever.
Okay,
This is public
so-
comment.
This is Kathy Hall, and I'd like to make some announcements about the Founders Weekend, if I may. This year's Founders Weekend is September 16th, 17th, and 18th. Some highlights: Friday, Taste of Lee and the fireworks. Saturday, the 5K run, the parade, and fun and food at the athletic field. Later in the afternoon, there is going to be some guest speakers. Senator Adam Hines has been invited to speak around 2 o'clock. There will be 4 garden tours, locations within Lee from 1 to 2. Children's activities from 2:30 to 4:30. These are all at the Main Street in Lee at the Congregational Church. On Sunday, there's going to be Zumba and yoga at the park on Main Street. And this is just a start and a sample of Lee Founders Weekend. Townspeople should have received a postcard of the Founders Weekend. More information will be coming your way in September. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Monica Ryan, 165 Laurel Street. I live across the street from the project that was just discussed in the hearing that's now been adjourned to Monday. I wrote a lot of notes down here, and I have a lot of questions, but I will see if I can get Monday off. But I mean, I just want to bring some concerns to the select board, to the town. When they talk about market rate housing and market rate and modestly priced, I'm curious to see what the other, Railroad Street and Great Barrington and Main Street Lenox, what those prices might be. And really, what the real prices are going to be here. Are they going to be affordable? I mean, it doesn't have to be affordable housing because they're not getting any subsidies, but, are they just going to be coming up with high-priced housing that are going to, because that's what's going on right now in the Berkshires. We do need more housing. We do, and I would love to see apartments there rather than a motel. But I would rather, how tiny are these going to be? These are all little one-room, motel rooms. How you're going to squeeze 16 units out of it? How small are these going to be? But my real question is, how much are these going to be? How much are they going to be charging? I want real numbers, not just like, oh, it might depend on what it's going to cost to renovate it. So that's one concern, market rate housing pricing. Another concern is the lighting, 16-foot tall lighting, and they had said it could be modified to shade it and to dim it and all that. I live in a house that is just down, 3 houses down, plus the Masonic Temple from the state police, and I can go in my backyard and practically read a book at night from the light that comes from the state police that shines across all that beautiful land back there. Is just lit up to a fare-thee-well, so stargazing is ridiculous. So, my concern is about lighting and what direction it goes in and how much it is. So I'd like to see as little as possible lighting and make sure that the neighbors are not affected by that, because that's a real problem. Once it's up, size of the water and sewer lines, they said that they would have to increase the water line for safety, for fire, probably, they said, right? So, and that was a concern for me too, because I thought that the line there would probably not be enough to handle all those units. So, now, most of those units are all 1-story except for the central part is the 2-story. So is there any plans, or would they ever be allowed to go 2 stories on all this? Will we see a future where they say, well, let's make it into duplexes and build up instead of out, right? Keep the same footprint. Or is there any plans in the future to go up? I am concerned about traffic there. That is right across from Deborah Street, and yes, everyone speeds on that road. It's quite bad. We have a lot of problems with trucks coming down and hitting their Jake brakes all the time and making a lot of noise and slamming on their brakes. So I hear, it's traffic there is quite busy, as we all know, on Route 20, and people come down there quite fast. So another concern is the dumpsters. Mr. Carlino had mentioned that maybe they could open it up to another area. I don't see how they could really do that, because the dump truck is going to have to back up to those dumpsters, and I think that's the only way they can do it. However, yes, that is a concern, making sure that the gates are always closed, because we have that problem with Starbucks leaving their gates open, and I think they're doing a better job, but the fact that they were ever allowed to put garbage in front of Starbucks, I don't know how that happened, but they were leaving the gates open. It looked terrible for the town of Lee. So so maybe they can get auto closing gates or something that just shuts it automatically. The dumpsters, can they make them bear proof? We have a lot of bears in the area. I get garbage dragged over to my yard from other dumpsters and garbage nearby. So can they make them bear proof dumpsters? What other questions did I have here? There's some thing on here about decks. I guess I can look at the detailed things that are in the office. But my overall concern is really, are they going to be coming to help us with good, reasonable housing? And also, I think that the number of units, 16 altogether, overall is pretty big. I would like to see less units than 16. So I think that's an area where they're going to be needing an approval. I would like to see a lot less. I don't see, I mean, I would love to see what these layouts look like, because a one-bedroom, these must be tiny, you know, and I'm not, I mean, I like the whole tiny house movement and everything, but I don't know what these are gonna look like and whether they'll really be livable, you know? So I would love to see some, you know, layouts of the units themselves and how they actually design these things and how big each unit would be, or what are we talking about? How big are the one bedrooms gonna be? How big is the studio gonna be, you know? So can we get some numbers on that? That would be helpful for us to know. But I'd like to see a lot less than 16 total, so, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, George.
To the chair, Monica, I made a note of everything that you brought up
Yeah.
in case you can't get there. I'm happy to try and attend another planning board meeting, and I'll bring these up. And I will say that there are plans available that will show you the layout of each of the rooms. Or rooms, apartments, so to speak.
Layout, yeah.
They're certainly
Floor plan.
small. They're
Right.
certainly small. And but there are plans available for you to look at. Certainly, and go either see the planning board or you know, I don't
They're
know. I don't think
available in the
they're
clerk's
online.
office.
Yeah, in the clerk's office as well. But so they're available, certainly, which may answer one or two of your questions. But I'm happy to try and attend that meeting Monday and bring this up if you don't happen to be there.
Okay, thank you.
And you're very welcome.
So we're still in public comment. I see a couple hands. Please, Tim, do you want to say something next?
Tonight I want to talk about something cheery. As you know, there was a pretty nasty Eagle editorial written lately, and they make this inference as if nobody has done anything innovative, you might say, at this site. And I just want to make sure that everybody in this town understands that HRI, we held our first alternative technology conference in 1995, and we've held two since then. We've had CEOs from technology company come up dozens of times over the last couple of years. And I'm here tonight because even though we have a number of technologies that we know about, I was on the phone with a new technology today, and I thought I'd bring it to the table just to let everybody know that there's something better than a dump, okay? And this company is called Ecospheres, okay? And they make a little sphere like this, and it's got a little spike on the bottom, and they claim they can put it down into the river, which is the first technology that we've ever heard of that you can put it down into the river. So my first thought is, you know, is this real? What's happening here? And see, I already knew about this technology when this person from the company called me this morning. And it was developed by, I think her name is, what is it? It's like, her last name is Quinn, I think. But anyway, it was developed at NASA. Okay, you think NASA might have a technology? If anybody could do it, it's probably NASA. And the lady from NASA has, I understand, 3 or 4 patents on technologies that get rid of different pollutants, because that was her job for many, many years at NASA. And so they claim that they could treat it this way, that they could treat a dump this way, that they could treat in many ways. So we're very open to this at HRI. I have spoken to a vice president there. I have a call is going to happen with the CEO of Ecospheres. And I have invited them up today to come up and at some point do a forum for us also so that we can learn a little more about this. I just want to let people know that the Eagles' push to say like nothing exists out here that's better than a dump is just so wrong, so backwards. It's 30 years ago thinking, and the way to deal with this stuff is treatment technology. And I'm just going to say it one more time. Vietnam, you know, they just had one of the best thermal desorption treatment in Vietnam, 97, 98 percentile reduction. In that case, it was Agent Orange, and some people, you know, EPA likes to go, well, that's something different. Well, I'm a chemist, you know, I was trained in chemistry, and I can tell you what the difference is. The difference is one oxygen molecule between dioxin and PCB. That's it. And their structure is exactly the same. Basically, they're biphenyl rings with chlorine on them. They're all the same. And this company says they can break it down. So Vietnam broke it down, and this other company that was working at Log Homes, okay, that was me that set that whole thing up at Log Homes, okay, a number of years ago. Also a dioxin site, okay? And they got halfway into it, and see, EPA and DEP, they're beholden somewhat to General Electric. And General Electric doesn't like this new technology stuff. They never have. It took us a long time to finally figure it out and realize that probably the only reason they have to not like it is they own hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sites, and if we make it easier for them to clean it up, they're going to have to clean them all up. And they're always resistant. So anyway, they ended up shutting this biotech thing down. And we could never get a good reason out of them. And the company who had put all their efforts into this thing was pretty upset because they were using their own money to do it. And so in the end, there was a company called Ransom Engineering. They're from New York State. And they were the, like an ombudsman at the site, okay? Is the site actually working? Are they breaking down the dioxin and all this stuff like this? So EPA, DEP shut them down, and next thing we know is that the company, before they have to leave the site, decided to do one last round of sampling with Ransom Engineering. And if you read that final report, in one summer of treatment, they had 30% reduction of the dioxins. And I know, the treatment field pretty well. I don't think that's ever been done in the world, okay? And I'm just saying that these things exist, they're here, and the people that are naysayers are absolutely wrong. And this town should be looking forward to that kind of stuff, because if we can convince the right people, there's much better ways to handle this waste. So,
thank you. Thank you, Tim. I want to go to Caroline first. She had a hand up before you, Ann, sorry.
This is just from Monica, Caroline Young. I have a 650 square foot studio apartment in my home that I own. I get $1,100 a month. I have never not had a lineup of people who want it. It's a big, the bathroom is shut up. Everything is a big open space, 650 square feet. People want it. And anybody with a nurse or anybody like that, I have a fellow in there right now who is working on his graduate degree in psychology. They want it. So don't worry about the small size.
Thank you. Still up public comment. Ann, did you want to give anything?
I don't get to talk about Riverfest.
Oh, okay. Well, that's coming
Hang
up.
on.
Yeah, that's coming up. Anybody else?
Hang on.
I just have a question, Janice. My brother couldn't make it tonight, but he asked me, we were talking, and I don't know if you guys can do this, but is there any way you can write a letter to GE to tell them to stop until we get all our legal stuff done? I mean, we have court cases. I just don't understand why they're still doing the work up there, and they're wrecking that whole mountain up there, if you drive up there. That's my question.
Still in public comment. Anyone else want to be heard? Okay. If there's nothing else, we're going to move on. General business. We have an entertainment permit. This is, I see Ann Langlis's name attached to it. I believe this, if I'm looking at this in front of me here, I have a entertainment license. Excuse me. Keep the chatter down, please. This is for an entertainment license Sunday, July, if I'm reading that right. Oh, that's the date, August 14th. That was the date of the application.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, Sunday, August 14th. It says, I got a couple notes here for a sign. The event with an arrow in the park, I don't have an issue with that. Setup is early AM. Riverfest runs from noon to 6. This is for the Housatonic River Initiative. It's going to be at the First Congregational Park here. I'm assuming you've already spoken to the church.
We have everything we need. We've spoken to the church.
Okay.
We have an insurance policy for the day. We have, I think, everything that we need. Everything we did last year, we have repeated. We've done, quite a few Riverfests through the years, so we've got it down pretty well. And the great thing about it is there's going to be a great lineup of Berkshire musicians, and some of the best. And we invite people to come down and have a good time and talk to. It's a day to celebrate the river, so that's what we're doing.
All right.
That's August 14th?
August 14th is the date I have here.
Yes. Sunday, August 14th, 12 to 6 is what we're planning. Actually, we've asked for an hour before that, hour after that for 7.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't have any comments or questions. Everything looks like it's in order. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve, and also, does this include the one-day special permit for the special sign permit? I mean, they want a temporary sign, right?
Can we waive the fee also?
Yeah, I was getting to that. First of all, I want to make sure that what we're doing will also incorporate the sign. So, okay, so I would make a motion that we approve this entertainment license, but also to approve a one-day temporary sign permit and waive the fee for the sign permit.
I'll second that.
Can we move the sandwich board, is that okay?
Yeah, I think so. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, and allow the chair to sign.
Yeah.
So I'm going to add that on there.
I only have a red pen, so I'll need there you go.
We have a couple.
I'll have to remember to bring a black pen next time. Next on our agenda.
Wait, you said I could public comment after.
Oh, I meant as part of the entertainment permit, but please, Ann, please. Go, Chris. Thank you.
Ann Langmus, and I just wanted to be able to show, if you could, this is going to be our flyer that's going to be posted around town. Several have already gone out. So, just as an ongoing informational, educational part of Riverfest, there's actually going to be a information booth that's going to be supplied by Housatonic River Initiative. And as Tim had spoke earlier, there's going to be a great lineup of musicians. For kids, we're going to have some face painting. We're going to have a clown come in, Bowie the Clown. Grampy's hot dog stand is going to be there, Ernie. I don't know if anybody knows Ernie. You can usually find him in the corner of Lennoxdale by the rollout place. And it'll be, as Tim said, August 14th. We'll start at noon and go to 6 p.m. And we are also going to be doing a bake sale. So the bake sale, we're hoping that people locally will bake items and bring them down. They can come in after 11 a.m., drop them off to Joanne Simpson, who will be under the tent manning the bake sale booth. We also have hundreds of dollars that people can buy raffle tickets for, and we've had many businesses already donating to the raffle situation. If you have any questions or want to pick up flyers, we have information online through the No PCB Dump Action Group, and please reach out. And you can also see me down at Hats and Jewels. I have flyers there also. And hopefully lots of people will turn out. It'll be a lot of fun.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next order of business, we have board and committee appointments and updates. So I have kind of a running list that we've been keeping here of some openings, some vacancies that we have, some boards and other things. Right now, we're sort of, it's in the planning board's court to actually appoint the master plan. And we do have a number of people from different boards, as well as there are some at-large opportunities for people who aren't on any particular committee to serve on this board. So if you're interested, submit your interest to the planning board or the building department. I'm sure they'll help you out. And then we have some different boards down here. CBA, CPA, which is the Community Preservation Act, DPW, and Agricultural Commission. So do all these have openings at this point, Chris?
Correct, yeah. So at this point, the CPA, we're still waiting to hear from, so that by town code that was adopted at the last town meeting, we have members that are appointed by different boards, and then the Board of Selectmen appoints the at-large members. So we've heard from Housing and Youth right now. The other boards either haven't informed us of who their member would be, or a couple of the boards like Historical Commission doesn't meet during the summer. So it's on them to appoint their representative for CPA, but we are still taking applications or interest from anyone who's interested in an at-large position, which is, there's 4 of those, so.
And just to be clear for anybody who's just hearing about this the first time, the CPA is the Community Preservation Act. It's sort of a tax that funds different projects around town, and the committee would kind of decide. The state matches these funds that the towns raise, and this committee would sort of decide what to do with those funds, what projects to pursue. I think, I'm not sure what else, is there anything else that?
Yeah, so that money that we collect, it's a surcharge on the taxes. That money gets a certain amount that's matched by the state, and this board would make recommendations to the town meeting for how to spend that money. Okay. So yeah, we're getting pretty close on finalizing the master plan. At this point, but again, that's planning board. There was discussion last time. Gail Cerisia had interest in several committees. I know Bob had talked to her as well. And I think based on the committee's recommendation and the feedback and feel free to jump in, Bob, that we could move ahead with the appointment of her appointment to the Agricultural Commission, which has a base on.
I wish she was here tonight because she expressed interest a limited interest in some of the other positions, but the agricultural one she seemed to be enthusiastic about, so I could see doing that.
And the others, I think, sounded like we were still waiting to finalize those, but I would think based again on that we could go ahead with that one if the board would like to. So,
yeah, I'd entertain a motion.
Well, I'd like to move 2 people if you don't mind. Also, the Zoning Board of Appeals. Attorney Don Hunter is interested, and I think that would be great to have that kind of, I mean, that's what he used to do for a living, is to, and he understands the rules and regulations very well on ZBA, so I would make a motion to appoint Don Hunter to the Zoning Board of Appeals and Gail Cerisia to the Agricultural Commission.
Yeah, I would, Gail was not truly interested in the ZBA anyway, so.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Right. Talking to her. Yeah.
Right. So I'll second your motion.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I just have a question on the CPA. Sure. You said we had 3 or 4 at-large positions that are able to be
I
filled.
believe it was 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So
have we had any other interest? I know just Tom Loxton has
just Tom at this point for at-large, but let me just pull out the list here.
Yeah,
so it's 1 from historical, 1 from planning, 1 from Concom, 1 from youth, 1 from housing, and 4 citizen members at large. So.
And we haven't heard from the committees, but no one else has asked about.
Yeah, the only one we did hear from housing.
But not at large.
But not at large. That's the only one.
Because that's only that's our appointment.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Only 1 of 4 so far.
Yep, that's correct.
It's been a while.
It's been posted for at least 2 or 3 weeks, at least, maybe longer.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, I'll let us. I won't go to that yet. Maybe next meeting then. We'll see. Next meeting that you're here, we'll see if anybody else is. Otherwise, let's get it moving.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it as just those 2 then.
So I have a motion, right? And was there a second? Yeah, there was a second. I was looking for more discussion. Anything else? All those in favor?
Gordon Bailey, aye.
Bob Jones, aye.
Jean Renier, aye.
Okay, great.
Next order of business, election warrant for the state primaries, and I got a little jumbled up here with my paperwork today, so sorry.
If you would like, Mr. Chair, I could kind of address the next two items all at once. So the state legislature has approved some new election laws, which involves vote by mail, making that permanent. Some people probably remember that from the presidential election in 2020. They also changed some things around for early voting in person, and based on our population and our number of registered voters, also included with that election is the schedule recommended by the town clerk, who also serves as the elections officer. So that schedule being compliant with those new laws. And then finally, the other part of it is the law required that the Board of Selectmen appoint police officers to the polling places. So there's a motion on here for someone to make, if you'd like, that would appoint those officers, but basically leave the scheduling and the final details up to the chief of police, but that you'd be appointing that an officer be there to comply with that's Chapter 92 of the Acts of 2022. So, and of course, the warrant, which we have on here, is to sign for the September 6th primaries, which would be happening at Crossway from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Should we do it one at a time?
Yeah, sure. I think, well, let's, do you want to do the warrant first?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Do I have a motion to approve the warrant?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the warrant for the 2022 state primary.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on the warrant? All those in favor?
Aye.
So that's, I'll sign that.
I think we all
all
sign
three,
that. Yeah, we
we're
all
all signing that. Then it's the police detail for the voting, the actual.
Skip to that. I'd make a
I'm
motion.
sorry, did I
That's
skip
right. No,
over?
that's right. We have to do this too. We have to approve this, the hours. But no, I'll skip to that. I'd make a motion to approve a sufficient number of police officers, but not less than one, at the polling location at every election therein, to preserve order and to protect the election officers and supervisors from any interference with their duties, and to aid in the enforcing the laws relating to elections as required by Section 72 of Mass General Law, Chapter 54, which was changed in Section 13 of Chapter 92 of the Acts of 2022. Further, I move to designate the police chief with the authority to assign specific police officers according to scheduling and availability. The town clerk will advise the police chief of the location and time the officer is needed.
Motion made.
I'll second it.
Second, any further discussion on the police detail? All those in favor?
Aye.
Now backing up, I'm looking for an approval of the voting schedule, early voting schedule here, which it looks like, as chief election officer, I am recommending that the hours and dates for early voting in person for the 2022 state primary to be as follows. Saturday, 8/27, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Monday, 8/29, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., Tuesday, 8:30, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., Wednesday, 8:31, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., Thursday, 9/1, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., Friday, 9/2, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So these are early voting options, right?
These will all be at town hall at the clerk's office?
Yeah.
Well, they'll be right in the courtroom.
In the courtroom?
Yep.
Just want to make sure that's out
Yeah,
there.
and maybe we can post these, or are we gonna have? them
Yeah, they'll be posted
on our website?
online, and we have to, the state elections division usually posts those on their website as well. And the idea, of course, with the different times was to accommodate different people's schedules.
Sure. Can we just make sure, if we're going to redo it, to make sure that it's clear that it's here? Because in reading this, I don't see that it says it's in the courtroom, so it'd be great to make that very clear, that the location is in the courtroom. Thank you.
So do I have a motion to approve the early voting schedule?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2022 early voting schedule.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have, next item of business, building department fee changes approval. So we've got a number of fee changes. Is this sort of, is this coming from our building department, Chris?
Correct, yeah, the building department is actually recommending it for both Lee and Lennox, since it's a shared building department.
Okay.
And the list is in your packet there. It's changing permits for swimming pools, certificate of occupancies, demolition, and sheet metal.
And is this largely just the cost of doing business, or did they say?
Yeah, so there was some
increases.
There's some explanations here. Let me just go through so I'm telling you the correct thing. So for the pools, it says it often takes numerous back and forth communications with regards to location on the lot, safety equipment, and engineering. And then there's also a code review and excess time spent dealing with compensatory fees. So we wish that the in-ground and public pools be treated as the same as alterations, renovations, and additions to a house, is what they're looking at. On the certificate of occupancies, it was a reflection of the amount of time that they're taking to do those now. The same for the sheet metal permit, so.
I don't know if it's necessary or not, but for the moment, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote and discussion, just for the moment.
No. Just as a clarification as well, in order to keep up with these, we have taken on additional staff over the last couple of years that we haven't had. So this, I guess, to answer your question, Bob, it does sort of have to do with the cost of doing, right.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Looking for a motion?
Yes, I believe so.
I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendations of Don Fitzgerald, the Lee Lennox Building Inspector, for the increased fees.
Yeah.
I'll second. And if there's no further discussion, I would say all those in favor?
Aye.
Rest of river discussion, okay. Now, let's see, where did I put that? Here we go. I have a draft. Sorry, Chris handed this to me at the last moment. I believe I have 3 copies here.
Thank you.
So I have a draft posting for our August 18th meeting, which is a Thursday. It's going to be held at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. Place is the Lee High School Auditorium. And we have a call to order. There's going to be discussion about meeting guidelines, what's the purpose of the meeting, questions to the panel, questions and comments, and so on and so forth. I think the idea here, and we can move this around a little bit if you would like, but I think the idea is here to just make sure everybody's heard. We can answer any legal questions and explore whatever we can explore at that meeting. We might not be able to get to it all, and if you do have, I guess I would say to the public, if you do have questions, please get it to us in advance. And I was even sort of talking to Chris, should we set some sort of deadline for the submittal of the questions online? Because I don't know if everybody's aware that's watching this. We have a sort of a portal where you can submit questions and comments to us, feed into Chris's spreadsheet, right? And
yeah, so it's going to be right on the main page of the website, right underneath the main sort of directory is the news section. There's 4 news items, that's one of them, and it says right up PCB forum questions on there. So it's just a simple form. You can submit up to 3 questions, and then we'll have it. Anything we can get in advance, there's a better chance of answering it if we have it in advance.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll try to do what we can the night of, but if there's a question you know of already, submit it now. We'll have time to do any necessary research. So,
I guess don't expect to come with a question and us to be able to answer it the night of, I guess is what I would say, right? I mean, we're gonna do our best.
Yeah.
And if we don't get to everything and we need to come back, we'll do that. But yeah, I think that about sums it up. I don't know, I was kind of thinking about, do we set a deadline? Do we have to set a deadline? Is a couple days, a week before the meeting, you know? I don't know if that really is gonna accomplish anything either. I don't know, thoughts, anyone?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, well, first of all, I tried to do it by today, but it didn't work. Too much stuff going on. But I have 3 questions that I am going to be putting on hopefully tomorrow or the next day. So at least to start the ball rolling. But I think that as long as people understand, if they have an idea and they want to write it in a day or 2 ahead, as you said, of the meeting, that's just not enough time to do legal research. So just expect that we'll get to it, but it's going to have to be at an additional meeting. So I'll start the ball rolling by putting 3 questions out that I have that I would like to have legal answers to so that we can go forward with, any action or inaction we deem appropriate for the town. So that's all, so.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about this for a while. It's been 2.5 years that the town of Lee has been fighting amongst ourselves and fighting against outside forces, and finally, we're gonna have a town meeting where people of Lee can come together, ask questions, present ideas, get their questions answered by people who know what they're talking about. If not that night, as we've said, we'll follow up on it. I just hope, speaking of myself personally, I hope that we look at this as an opportunity, a real opportunity to get some movement here. We've been stuck in the mud pretty much for 2.5 years, and what I'm looking for personally as a select board member is some direction from the voters of the town of Lee, because this is a multifaceted problem. We have people, very knowledgeable people, who disagree amongst themselves as the best way to move forward. We have a lot of good ideas out there. What I don't want this to devolve into is mudslinging, anger with any individual or individuals. We've been through that, and that's what that is not what this meeting is all about. It's a gathering and disseminating of information so that we can figure out how to best move forward here. And again, it's a multifaceted problem, and there's no simple answer, but let's use this to put our heads together to decide what direction we want to go. And I'll leave it at that.
Janice, do you want to?
Yeah.
Why don't you come up to the mic so that everybody can hear you?
My question is,
Please identify yourself.
Janice Spring, are we gonna have a couple different attorneys there? Because I think our town attorney can only go so far. I think we need I'm not saying he's bad, but I just don't want to get information from just our town attorney. I want to see other attorneys there. That's my question to you, because.
So, as it happens, Janice, we hired an environmental lawyer.
Okay, great.
Who we met with, and we discussed a lot of things. We put a lot of things into him. He'll be there.
Okay, great.
Help us field questions. We had a lot of questions. I'm sure we have probably a couple more since that meeting, and that's why I'm saying, get your questions in.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure there was
Give him
another.
a chance to kind of respond.
Okay,
and,
thank you.
And digest some of them. So.
Okay, sounds fair. Thank you.
Is it about the meeting?
Yeah.
You said you guys hired an environmental lawyer?
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to tell us who that is?
Yeah. Chris Myrum. Correct me that.
That's correct, yeah.
Chris Myra?
Myrum.
Yeah, M-Y-R-U-M.
Yeah, I believe he's out of Springfield. Is that
right? Yeah.
He's practiced out of Springfield, I believe.
No connections with EPA or GE.
Right, I was just curious. What made you guys go that route? Because I don't know who this is, and I would love to know something about the person.
He's also dealt with cases specific with PCBs. in the past.
For
So-
municipalities.
So municipalities, so that it's not his first rodeo.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And without revealing any details, I have to say it was I felt a very positive meeting that we had with them.
Super, super. And when we go into this public forum, and people have their questions, and you guys are going to pre-sift the questions so that duplicate questions don't need to be repeated, which is great.
Well, Chris will probably vet some, right?
Yeah.
Like you're saying,
Yeah.
Right.
Condense maybe a couple.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So-
not to audit them.
No,
or to, anything like
Just
that.
to condense,
Yeah,
right.
that's all. Yeah.
There's so many people have a lot of faith in Chris. His feet are in the ground. They've been here for decades. He's fine. Nobody's going to question him. So when this meeting begins, how will this meeting be run? Is there going to be a moderator?
It's going to be a select board meeting, just
It's gonna
kind
be
of
a
like.
select board meeting.
That's right.
Okay.
I mean, it's going to be held in the auditorium. We're the board, and we're going to have, I believe town council will be there as well, right?
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
Town council will be there, we'll have our attorney Myram, and then it'll be us, and, I mean, I know HRI, I don't know if they're going to have any, I can't speak to who Tim's going to bring, or, I mean, everybody who wants to be heard is going to be heard.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So Christopher Boniface is going to be coming. He's still welcome, even though you guys got a lawyer to bring in from Springfield.
The idea is to gather information and disseminate facts.
The more the better.
Right.
Wonderful.
People, there are a lot of information floating around, some of it accurate, some of it terribly inaccurate.
Right.
And it's time that we all got on the same page.
Super. Okay. Thank you.
Just going to mention, the reason, of course, for posting it as a selectmen's meeting, we have to post it as, as a legal meeting.
Right.
It's not a town meeting per se, so we're not bringing, that together for for votes on particular articles. So the selectmen's meeting was the way to
label it.
facilitate that,
Gotcha,
so
okay.
that we could meet our posting requirements.
Thank you.
Monica, you.
Monica Ryan, thank you for having this meeting, and I do foresee a follow-up meeting because it's going to open up a lot of more things, right? So I'll look forward to, that'll be good that we have a follow-up. And it sounds like it's going to be a better setup than we've had in the past. I know we've had some of these informational meetings where they had all the members of the rest of the river committee from all the different towns, and everyone got up and talked for 10 or 15 minutes, and by the time it got to the little people, there was no time, So it sounds like it's a better setup where we will all have an opportunity to really speak and be heard and ask questions instead of listening for 2 hours before we get to talk, right? So will there be anybody has EPA been invited or
Nope.
GE been invited?
Oh.
Okay.
No, this
All right,
is
really
about,
just us.
this is about looking into legal issues, not,
Right.
we already know everybody is against the dump,
Right.
so we don't need that.
Yeah.
What we need is, what kind of questions do you have that attorneys would be able to answer to keep us within our lanes, so we aren't violating anything, but yet we can talk about how should we go forward. And I think, Tim's comments earlier about some alternative remediation issues is a great way to go, because part of the agreement, that part of the permit that the EPA has already issued talks about them looking into alternative means, and so they're already obligated under the permit to do that if we can bring something forward. Well, that's not a violation of the permit. That's not us, doing anything wrong. So, that's all.
And then this kind of deals with that health board meeting that we had, but so I may be going off topic, but have you all decided whether we should be doing an adjudicatory hearing with the hearing board?
That's up to the Board of Health, I think.
That's what I thought too, but
Yeah.
our town council said he had to check with you guys first, which I was a little concerned about after you left the meeting, Gordon. He had said he had to check with the board.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, why does the town council have to check with the select board when it's up to the health department to make that decision? So I was a little upset about that, and it just delayed it more. So I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
One more reason to have an environmental lawyer.
Mhm.
Who won't delay things. All right, thank you.
All right, so I've kind of said, Chris, do you have any sort of update from GE as far as their
You have the latest update.
yeah, their actions, their sort of progress or what they've been up to, so to speak?
Yeah, so right now, they've reported that the BMP surface water sampling was completed on July 27th. EPA collected a split sample from one location for quality control purposes. The next sampling event will occur at the end of August. The third 2022 quarterly dam inspections were rescheduled due to a scheduling conflict.
So they're not on the 17th anymore?
So this is, yeah, I just got this today.
Okay,
So,
all right, 'cause I didn't see that.
So there's going to be a rescheduling of that.
Okay.
The week of August 1, GE contractors are continuing to sample the Reach 5A floodplain. And also the week of August 1st, they'll be working in the river in Reach 5A, conducting surveys of the banks for erosion potential. And also during the week of August 1st, they'll be installing piezometers and seepage meters in the Reach 5A section. And lastly, also during that same week, conducting baseline restoration assessment activities also in the Reach 5A floodplain.
So, if I may, so all the work that the reports that we get, and I read those reports, Janice, you mentioned earlier during public speak time that there was work being done up there. We know that there's work being done up on there, but my understanding is that all of it is allowed within the existing permit. They're not building a dump yet.
No.
But they are doing test borings and that sort of thing. And if you know of something beyond what they're supposed to be
I
doing.
haven't been up there in a little while, I just noticed, the last time I was up there, it looked like a mess there.
Yeah.
They're wrecking that whole mountain. That's the most beautiful mountain we have here. This makes me sad. But I'll keep an eye out there.
Thank you. And one last thing, if I may.
Yeah.
So I just, one thing, alluding to what somebody said earlier, that editorial in the Eagle was, let me back it up. When this whole deal was cut, I thought, you know, these guys, the Berkshire Eagle, they're just sycophants for GE and the EPA, and this is just ridiculous. This is, you know, they're throwing a party for them, and they're not reporting the news. And then as more and more people spoke out against the dump, I thought the articles in the paper became a little more measured and a little more sober, if that's the right term. But this last editorial, that just did it for me. I got to say, and I hope the Eagle is listening, I thought it was juvenile. I thought it was absurd. I thought it was an insult to the people who live in Lee and the entire river corridor. And to, even if it's on the editorial page, to be so dismissive of an entire population who's fighting for their health and their rights and future generations, I was embarrassed for the Berkshire Eagle. And I thought about canceling my subscription, but then I remembered, know your enemy. And the Berkshire Eagle, for me personally, is my enemy at this point, because they have treated the people of Lee in such a terrible way, being so dismissive and just so arrogant. I just wanted to say that, and I hope the Eagle is listening, because there was nothing in there about the science or the facts or things that we know to be true, and they looked at and they wrote us off. And shame on the Berkshire Eagle.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. I thought the same thing when I saw it, and the thing that struck me also, aside from what all the other things that have been mentioned, is that how they're saying that, you know, we're stopping or slowing down this process by kind of like dragging or voicing our opinions against. They didn't happen to mention that GE could have started cleaning the river in 2016 when they got the permit if they had agreed to just take it all out of state. This slowdown, the 6 years later, it's not because of the Rest of River group. No offense to anybody who thinks it is, but it was about GE complaining about taking everything out of the state. If they had done that, if they had stuck to what the permit was, the EPA issued a permit to get going and take it out of state. This falls on the shoulders, this slowdown and this waiting, it all falls on the shoulders of GE, not on any of the Rest of River people until, GE's the one who threw the wrench into this whole thing. Because they could have started and looked into alternatives. They could have done all this starting in 2016. GE failed because of their bottom line. This is all about money. And that really disturbs me. I have my own problems with the greed of corporate America these days. But all this does is underscore the greed of corporate America. And I think it's shameful that GE isn't stepping up to the plate with all the billions of dollars they make in profits, all the hundreds of millions they pay to their executives and their board of trustee members. I think it's a shame that they haven't sucked it up and taken it out of state. And at the very least, it all should have gone back to where it started, and it should have been in Pittsfield. So this is a GE slowdown. Don't blame the people in Rest of River and don't blame the citizens of Lee for fighting this, because GE decided to pad their bottom line and put this off for 6 years before they got started. So that's my comments.
Thank you. One last thing. I also like to thank Neil Clark and Ed Leahy, our elder statesmen from the town of Lee. Excellent letters to the editor, to the point, and so well written and intelligent, and they just, nobody, I can't think of anybody saying it better. So thank you, Ed and Neil.
You wouldn't print her letter.
Oh, that's the one last thing. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to stop it.
No. There's been a complaint. I've been one to say, how come nobody's writing letters to the Eagle? People have to write letters. People have to let them in. And people have told me they won't print my letters. And well, Caroline, do you mind?
No, go right.
Caroline sent me a copy, an exchange with a member of the editorial, I presume a member of the editorial.
Steve Coffey.
Steve Coffey, and he refused to print the letter saying it's not factual. So Caroline wrote back and wrote, these are the facts. Nothing. So they aren't printing everything that they get. And again, shame on the Berkshire Eagle. They should be at the very least simply reporting the news, but to dive in feet first into this on the side of GE and the EPA is just shameful. That's it. Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing further about the Rest of River
Just
discussion.
one thing, Mr. Chair, I just wanted, the only reason, I apologize for the lateness of the agenda, but given the kind of different nature of the meeting that we're having on the 18th, I just wanted to, public forum, just see if there was any questions anyone had about or concerns about this agenda before we posted it. So, and we don't have to do it tonight if you don't,
Yeah, I want to take it home and,
and then look at it, but I just wanted to make sure that if you.
I suppose, maybe we can get back to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not by next meeting, but maybe by the end of the week. Is that?
Yeah,
Just individually, send me any individual
That's what I mean,
comments.
yeah. If you guys have any comments, and then we can go ahead. All right, moving on to gas permits. I have a number in front of me, as it's listed in the agenda. 121 Tamarack is first.
Mr. Chairman, on our copies, we never see anybody signed off.
You don't have any signed off?
These are the signed copies here, so it has been signed off by both the chief of police
And the DPW?
And the DPW,
All right, because
yeah.
my question was up on Greylock, whether it's been long enough that they've repave that they don't mind them getting in the road again. 'Cause
Well, this
usually
is-
that's a problem.
My agenda
Let me
says
see
no
it.
pro-tunc, so I imagine that they already did the
Yeah.
work there.
Yeah, so 420
figures.
Graylock was an
I
emergency
didn't see that.
situation where they had no heat or hot water at all.
Okay. All right.
But it only, and the reason why they were willing to do that, non-pro-tunc, was it only affected their driveway apron. So,
Okay, because it looks like on the sketch that it's out in the road. So, that's fine. No, if that's all it was, because I see where the valve is, and that's not in the road, but it looks like they went out to the main, so, okay. Nope,
So, yeah, and it was specified in here, it was just driveway apron,
okay.
so.
All right. Very good.
These would
And I
be
don't have any problem with any.
Okay.
the signed copies for you.
I mean, if you would like
John.
to, we can approve them all at once if you'd like. We have
Do you have any problem
installed.
with them, Bob?
Do you have that?
yeah, I
I
got
have a map for the Tamarack, but that's,
Yeah.
I see the,
Yeah, well, when you first look at it, it says Myrtle. That's what caught my eye, but it's really Tamarack.
really on Tamarack, yep. So this is for a new gas on 420, that was the 420 Graylock Street, that was the non-for-tongue. And then I've got an anode service line installed in the grassy area and 144 West Park Street. And then I can pull this one up. I've actually got a new gas service in 121 Tamarack Ave for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve all 3 gas permits, 121 Tamarack, 144 West Park, and 420 Graylock Street as submitted.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion on the gas permits? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that's the chair to sign, right?
Yeah. Yes, so I'll sign these. Let's see, discussion of fees.
That was me, sir.
Oh, you have something?
That was me,
for us?
yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
Actually, it's something that that was brought to our attention long ago, and that I made a promise earlier to bring this up and talk about it. Joshua Bloom had complained about the fact that last year, when we had this sort of sign issue and removal issue, and he wanted to file a complaint with the Zoning Board of Appeals, that we have a fee schedule, which I believe maybe the planning zoning board set themselves. I don't know that it's our fees, per se. I think they set their fees, but I have to look at the
I believe
bylaw.
that's correct.
I think they set them. There's a fee for filing for a variance, and there's a fee for filing for a special permit. And it's pretty hefty, because those fees are hefty because, number one, those are, they have to be advertised, and it's, and all that kind of
Costs
stuff.
the
It's
town a little bit of money,
costs
yeah.
quite a bit of money to advertise wherever it is we're gonna advertise.
I would
And
say
to hold the hearings.
sorry to interrupt, but
No,
about
go
at
ahead.
least $200 for an Eagle ad, at least 200, and that's,
Sure.
it's all by the word, so.
Sure, and the bottom line is, it's like, I think we're charging like $700 or something like that, $750. But there was no fee for appealing the decision of an official of the town, which is one of the rights of a citizen to appeal an individual, like the zoning officer, individual boards. Sometimes, if it's not a special permit issue, if we make a decision to issue these permits, they could be appealed to the zoning board of appeals. The issue is there's no fee listed there. And I did research, and I've talked to a couple of attorneys about this, and based on 48, Mass General Law 48, and the appeals rights, of the citizens to the ZBA, and the ZBA's requirement to have to post these things, okay? So there's gonna be some cost. But I think that I would like to suggest, if it's the ZBA that does it because it's an appeal to them, if they're the ones, I'd like to either discuss with the ZBA or send them a letter to suggest that they have a separate line item for the appeal of a decision that's within their rights to review. And I think that it should be, either an incredibly bare bones low amount or no fee at all for the following reason. I can understand having to cover the costs. Let me back up a little bit. Berkshire Regional Planning used to put out this law document for towns years ago. It was a great thing. And one of the best ones I ever read was the difference between a fee and a tax, and an illegal tax. One reason you pay for a building permit fee is it's a fee because it's specific to you and you're going to get something for it. So you should pay for that service that you're getting that's only you. But if it's a service that is generic to everyone in town, that's generally considered to be covered by taxation. The cost of that service is a taxation, like our schools. You know, and they don't charge me for my kids going to school individually. We pay for it through our taxes because anybody can take advantage of that. And that's why I think that the appeal, in general, appeals are, and this one especially, was town-wide. This was an appeal that it was about the removal of all the signs. And that wasn't specific to any one person or property. It was a very broad, generic thing. In that case, I would think that the town should at least pay a portion, if not all, of that kind of a thing. Or if the money goes into an escrow account where, you know, if the town did the right thing, and, you know, then the appellant pays for the publication. But if the town's wrong, then I think that whoever had to pay for that ahead of time should be reimbursed. So I don't know how we can go forward with this idea, but just mull it over. We don't need to take action tonight, but I wanted to make sure. I told Josh I was going to bring this up, and it's been 2 months or so. I haven't been able to get to it, but that's why I asked for it to be specifically on our agenda for us to think about and think about how we might be able to suggest wording, or maybe they don't care and they want anybody who appeals anything to pay the whole boat. I don't know, but I think that's not right if it's something that's generic to everyone. That's all.
Do we know if there are any other precedents? I mean, in other communities?
I can talk to you about fees versus illegal tax, but not specific to a zoning board request specifically. This was a court action in Boston and Suffolk County having to do with the fire department in Boston charging Emerson College X amount of dollars and the court found, no, that's an illegal fee. That's not, it should be covered by taxation. You shouldn't be charging them a fee. So that's the basic concept, because it was something they did for everybody in town, but they were only charging certain people. So it seems to me that something I just wanted to mull over and have you folks thinking about, to say, should we go somewhere with this, or what should we do? Anyway, that's just a thought.
Do you have something you want to say?
No, just I think Larry, your point's well taken, Gordon, and I think that the only thing we have to be wary of is to make sure that it's something that's town-wide as opposed to an individual.
Exactly.
It's going to get appealed. Everything's going to get appealed.
Yeah. And I'd agree. Well, in that case, if I'm appealing a decision that the building official made, or zoning enforcement, about my property only, I think I should have to pay for it. You know? But what if, in fact, it was overturned? The issue is it gets tricky because it can also not be overturned, but just be modified. So there's a lot of nuances there that, but the fact that there's no fee anyway, because the clerical staff was looking also and going, wow, there's nothing here to charge for, we have to have this hearing, but there's no fee schedule. So let's do something eventually. That's all. Thank you.
And
I just wanted to say that when that all happened, we were actually told there was a $600 fee attached to it. You had said something like $750. It was just kind of a crazy fee.
Yeah,
and as some, it was so grossly widespread throughout the town.
Yeah.
When it came time to return the signs to us, so many people, the elderly people they don't have cars, they couldn't get here. At one point, I had requested to come in and pick up the signs myself to distribute. I was told no, I was not allowed to by BJ Church at the time. And then, you know, we got this wonderful public apology in the paper, and it was all sweet and everything. But I will tell you that there are many signs that were lost.
Oh, yeah.
And when you order one of those lawn signs, the cost is not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
If you order one lawn sign, it is $16 with your lawn stake. Through Housatonic River Initiative, we were paying approximately $5.25 to $5.50 per lawn sign.
Pretty cheap.
And, right, but still, that's a cost that we lost with our group, because we don't even know what happened to the signs that were left in town hall. And at some point, someone put a stack of signs claiming they were from town hall at my shop. And I had Black Lives Matter signs. I had signs personally advertising other people's businesses. So I left them out front for a couple months, and the rest went in the garbage.
Sure.
I tried to return as many as I could. So when that gross negligence happens, I also think it sure would be nice if people got compensated if they lost something, because a lot of people did.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I wanted to walk in and say, she'd say, here's your sign. I'd say, that's not my sign.
I have the initials, my initials in the corner.
Yeah, find my
I
sign.
had grass stains on it. I have your sign in my garage, Bob.
Well, anyway, that was my discussion on fees, and
I can
if
just
we could just think about that.
offer to the board also that now that we're part of E-Code 360, which is our online code, we do have access to what's called multi-code, so it allows us to search with certain parameters for any other towns that might have something similar.
Sure.
So I can check into that and see
Thank
if
you.
there's anything in Massachusetts that's similar to that.
That brings us to BRPC alternate. So as part of the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, we have is it an option, or are we required to have an alternate, appoint an alternate?
Yes.
We've always had one.
Yeah. So
I think it's a good idea, because
Yeah,
if our,
absolutely.
regular person can't make it, it's great to have a follow-up.
And I believe we have an alternate, Peter Blum.
Yeah, and he is.
This would be for a year?
Yeah, so this is renewing his alternate status on BRPC.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Peter Bloom as an alternate to PRPC.
I'll second that. And allow the chair to sign.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That brings us all up to pending business. We have none. Chris, Town Administrator.
Yeah, so just to let you know, the revenue and expense reports for June 30th are available on your desks. I did the Rest of River update already. The only other update I had was just to let everyone know that we do have 4 major paving projects in the works. East Street, Summer Street, Spring Street, and West Road. And the latest updates is those should be, I believe they're going to be doing the paving on East Street this Friday. They've already done the milling. And then they have a schedule right now, which of course could change based on weather, but to have all of those done by August 16th, so.
I had a comment from somebody from out of town, actually, who came on one of our roads. I think it was up, actually at the end of Summer Street, is that where they've cut away the pavement, they haven't eased it, so you have this huge drop.
This was on which street again?
On Summer, it's coming off of Route 7 to go by Highland.
Right.
Come off Route
Yeah, so
7.
Summer Street was a unique situation there, and the reason why, so that was done with, a few years ago with a modified top coat, I believe, which is not the finished coat, so that kind of bought some time, so this is actually the finished coat
This is
that's
Summer.
going on.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was
Summer.
Spring Street, my bad, yeah.
The question and the comment was that there's no warning coming off Route 7, so if you're on a motorcycle
Gotcha,
or
okay.
something, you would just automatically be have a drop of 4 inches, 3 inches, whatever it is. But I noticed it, I drove my car just to check it out, and they were just saying, shouldn't you at least have something that says bump? But then when I get to the other end near the farm, they do have a sign, as you're gonna leave the milled area, there's a bump sign, but I didn't see one on the other side. I just thought it'd be great to have that warning on all of them. And I would think that would be up to the contractor, not our DPW. I would
Yeah,
think
we
that
can,
would
we
be a
can
contractor
reach out to them
issue.
about that.
I think they need to post it better, because I don't want to see anybody dump their bike, their
Mm-hmm.
motorcycle, or what about just a regular bike, that's got to take a toll on your tires, but it was brought to my attention, and I checked it out, and I have to agree. That was a quick bump
Mm-hmm.
down, so, thank you. And while you're, can I just ask a question? It's maybe a silly question. What's the difference between general business and pending business? We always have a none after pending business. I mean, is it pending because it's something that we postponed?
I suppose that's what I was about
Yeah.
to say, is maybe
But-
we would have a general business line item that we would,
Yeah.
that would
But
be.
I've
I
never
could take
seen it,
that out
Phil. I've
if
never seen
it's
it.
not applicable.
Well, I've just never seen it, so
Yeah,
my
no,
question
me
is,
either, but
why
it
do
was-
we
yeah.
have it listed?
Tradition, I guess.
The
but-
tradition, oh, you gotta have tradition, so, all right. It was just a question, because it seems like anything that's been continued just stays under general business, so, all right. Just a question, thank you.
Our next regular meeting is August 16th. Unless there's anything else, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.